My name is Lenka Buštíková. I'm the director of the Center for European Studies here. The center is hub for the study of Europe. It's a Title VI National Resource Center. We are a multidisciplinary area and language studies center. Today and events yesterday and today are co-sponsored by the Imagining Climate Change Initiative and by the Department of Gender, Sexual and Gender Studies. So thank you very much for partnering with us and for your generosity. Just a few housekeeping things. There's a sign-up sheet somewhere there. Please sign in. We will, if you have a stomach for it, please fill out evaluations at the end. And we will be taking pictures mostly of Selma, but if you're not uncomfortable with us taking pictures, please let me know. I again would like to single out Holly over there and from the Center for European Studies who came up with the idea of bringing Selma in. And it was a wonderful idea, Holly. This is a series of very memorable events. So back to thank you for joining us for the lunchtime symposium exhibiting the Arctics with Dr. Selma Green, who should be referred to as Selma, as was instructed. She came all the way from Finland, I think, still struggling with jet lag. Selma is an art historian by training and has 25 years of professional experience in art museums and cultural organizations. She's particularly interested in fostering digital user development, accessibility, and community engaged art projects focused on both historical and contemporary art. Since 2023, she has been museum director at Tampere Art Museum and the Mummy Museum in Tampere, Finland. After her talk today, exhibiting the Arctics, we will open it up for a Q&A. And thank you everybody for coming. And again, thank you for this wonderful partnership.
Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. Thank you for having me. It's been a great couple of days. I thought I'm maybe changing my title a bit. It's more about creating the Arctic land than exhibiting it. But I thought I'd start with a poem and then the video and then a small action. This is Breakways of the Wind by author Nils Aslak Valkeapää of the Sami First Nation in Sweden and Norway. They come and ask, where's your home? They come with papers and say, this belongs to nobody. This is government land. Everything belongs to the state. They bring out dingy fat books and say, this is the law and it applies to you too. But when they ask, where is your home? Do you answer them all this? Oskar Fredjekia with Bichaloppo during the spring migration. Chaparotli is where we built our Kahti during that. Our summer camp is Itumjaka, and during the winter, our reindeer are in Belvas. Today, I would love to explore the idea of creating and exhibiting the Arctic, not as a remote and exotic region, but as a complex cultural and political space. The Arctic is both a physical environment and an idea shaped by history, imagination, and power. The Euro-Arctic region, or the Barents region, is the area I'm most familiar with. So I will have my focus in what I know and in what I once called home. When we speak of the Euro-Arctic region, we will refer to northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and the Barents Sea, including the Kola Peninsula in Russia, territories marked by shared ecologies and overlapping cultural identities. This is also the area of the land of the Sami First Nation, or Sapmi, the only First Nation in the European Union. In northernmost Sweden, I will not use the L word and I take my chance to tell you that it's very insulting for the Sami First Nation members. So I know we have it in maps, we have it in books, we have it in tourism brochures, but I haven't been using that word for nearly 10 years now. And I'm doing fine, but you will hear that I use other descriptions of the high north, the Nordic countries. I lived high up in Sweden, in northernmost parts of the country, in a town called Kiruna, which is also the home of the Finnish-speaking minorities of the Swedish part of the Valley of the Torne River. This is a bit shorter in Swedish, Torne. So I might use that word as well. Torne have their own language called meänkieli, which means a language, and a word for the land or the area, which is Myanmar, our country. Yeah. Okay, in the picture, I just have a couple of background pictures. This is Konstmuseet in North, which means art museum in the north. Quite fitting title. Kiruna is about 100 miles north of the polar circle. So yes, polar night for 3 weeks of the year, midsummer sun, as 100 days of the year when the sun doesn't go down. And just outside the museum, this is also the city hall. So there's the town hall, and inside it the art museum, and outside the Swedish and Sapmi flags. So this is taken a couple of years back on the Sami National Day, 28th of February. My background lies in working with Konstmuseet in order and starting with a completely new museum. And the vision was to show critically orientated, community engaging contemporary art from the Barents region. After almost 100 years, or at least over 80 years of filming of an art museum in the area of the northernmost part of Sweden, Konstmuseet in order was inaugurated in 2017. Furthermore, Kiruna is known to be a town on the move, or as Kiruna people say, a city on the move, but make no mistake, it's not a city. They have about 23,000 inhabitants, so city sounds a bit much. Due to the needs of mining industry, the town center has been moved, and moving of buildings like the city hall or building new ones, infrastructure and people are very much in the process of moving. This will take about 20-25 years altogether, and it applies to most of the people who live in Kiruna. Contemporary curatorial practice is in the whole of the North or the Sapmi is deeply influenced by two frameworks, right to land, starting with what we call the area itself, and diverse cultures in coexistence, and that existence hasn't always been peaceful. Main themes are, of course, being colonization and participation. Creating the Arctic today is less about showing the North and more like working with another communities, acknowledging indigenous and minority perspectives, and questioning who speaks for the Arctic, in what tone, and on what platforms. Historically, Arctic cultures were often displayed through an ethnographic lens as others to be studied. The perspectives have been those of colonization and exploitation. In the picture, we see a work from the collection, of course, Musetinor, by Sami artist Andas Sunna. So maybe I have to move a bit. You see the four nations or countries that cover the Sami area: Russia, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. And as seen by Sami artists, they are all colonialist countries. You can also see a lot of traditional Sami imagery in the pictures and very typical themes or motifs in Anders Sunna's art, reindeer and reindeer skeletons, because he and his reindeer herding family have been part in well, it's a conflict that is a long story, but it involves a lot of dead reindeers, and reindeers are the livelihood, the money, the measure of pretty much everything, the measure of right to land to Sami people. So I have myself developed a concept. It's not sort of published anywhere, but it's a shared Arctic experience. And it is as follows. They come and take. That's what the Arctic people, people living in the Arctic areas feel. They just come and take, usually from the south, if not always from the south. Whatever they feel they are entitled to, whatever they think they need. It can be in the name of tourism, in the name of industry. At the moment, the so-called green industries are big in the Arctic area. It can be in the name of religion, the church, the law. They show up, take, and leave. There's no one who actually stays and builds and rebuilds the area or shares what they have or empowers the Arctic or the Arctic communities in any way. And that is, unfortunately, pretty much the everyday life experience of people sharing that very fragile environment. So today, if we go back to the theme of creating, so today curators and institutions are increasingly turning towards a dialogue, participatory approaches, where institutions are built in collaboration with communities and with obviously with individuals. This is also supported by the International Council of Museums, quite recent museum definition, where the museums are supposed to work with communities and not for the communities or about the communities. Many Sami artists, for example, Anderson, are activists as well, and they carry a deep-rooted approach of speaking for themselves. Anyone who recognizes the guy looking at the word? The king. Yeah. Well, that's exactly who's talking about Sweden. Who invited himself over to the opening of Musetinor. And when the king does that, he cannot really say that, okay, but we already asked them to give a speech. But more importantly, the work is by 7 Sami. There are 9 Sami languages, and 7 Sami is a very small one of them. Karula Grant is the name of the artist, and the work Markkana, which means lands, is a work from the Konstmuseet collection and a performative work, which is not always easy to acquire in a collection. The idea with the work is that this is a traditional kappo, a round box. When you turn it, it opens, made of Arctic birch and reindeer antler, and engraved in Northern Sami. Both Sami words and acknowledgement of land. So whenever Konstmuseet had an event, public event, educational events, we started by giving the speech of acknowledgement of land and having this object with us when we get it. Within the Euro-Arctic region, Sami contemporary art plays, of course, a very central role in rethinking the curatorial practice. There is also the Northern Norway Art Center, which is run and governed by some communities. The Sami territories span over Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. And Russia is, well, let us say Russia is always a problem. But my grandmother told me nothing would ever come from the east. Finland has a troublesome history with Russia. And the Sami communities tell us it's always been difficult to collaborate with Sami people in Russia, and they are a persecuted minority on that side of the border. Right now, with the war in Ukraine, actually, the war has reached the area of Sami. So when curating becomes like an act of sovereignty, it usually reclaims space, of course, voice and visibility. Sami curators emphasize land, language, and self-representation. And the land is never just a backdrop. It's an active participant, a living archive, if you will. Exhibitions often integrate spoken word, Georgi, which is a Sami word for arts, crafts, and design, and landscape documentation as forms of artistic knowledge. Such curating challenges the colonial gaze by placing Sami people not as subjects, but also as co-authors of their representation. I forgot to mention, I should have done it before I started. I'm wearing a necklace by Georgie master Erik Huva, and I've agreed with a Sami friend of mine, Victoria Harnesk, that whenever I speak about what I learned in my 5 years in Sami, I get to wear very Sami jewelry, even if I'm not indigenous myself. If we move a little bit west to the Tornedalen region, or focus on the northernmost parts of Sweden, we find the important context of Meänkieli-speaking minorities along the Sweden-Finland border. And Meänkieli is a combination of Norwegian, Swedish, and Finnish. Since I speak all of these three languages, I understand it completely, but I can't really produce it because I haven't grown up in the environment. Here, the questions of language, loss of language, loss of identity, and belonging shape both community life and artistic expression. Artists with a Meänkieli background are few, and the community still struggles to find its voice. This picture is from Kosmose North again, from a work called Back to Back by artist Karin Keisu and Jussi Tuureson from 2022. It's an hour-long video, 4-channel video, where two artists talk with each other back to back and try to find their language. Remember the words that they have lost. The other artist is from Myanmar, and the other one is a hearing child of their parents. Curators in the area increasingly treat language as a curatorial medium. They use multilingual exhibition texts, local oral histories, and community archives to bridge divides. The focus is not on monumental art objects, but more on everyday heritage, photography, storytelling, soundscapes, and personal memory. In my opinion, it is always crucial to work with contemporary issues, and by that, I mean, of course, contemporary art and artists, to avoid exercising and historicizing practices. Through participatory workshops and co-creative displays, creating becomes a shared process that strengthens cultural confidence and challenges historical marginalization. And this is what is so difficult for us who work as music professionals. We can share pretty much everything if we don't have to share the power of creating. And I've seen that dozens of times. Um, just an anecdote from a previous career event, those who were participating in the class visit yesterday heard this already. I experimented, it's way back over 10 years ago, on shared creating in Kunst Museum of Modern Art in Vasa. We made an exhibition called from the collections. Exhibition was called Art Battle. We put an announcement in the newspaper. Come create with us, it'll be fun. And then whatever layman and groups of people and communities came, they got to create a part from the collections to the museum. And well, I have unfortunately a very nasty expression on the tip of my tongue, but in my own language, I would say the response was so cold, it was snowing inside. Well, you know, peers critique, as you for example, art critics writing negative reports of the exhibition before we even opened. They hadn't seen the exhibition, but wrote about it. And I was claimed by several newspapers and magazines that I will single-handedly put the whole art museum, the curatorial profession out of work. Well, this is 10 years ago, and we're still managing somehow. But I think that example tells a lot about the fear towards shared rating. My attempts after that haven't been, well, they have been a bit more successful, but still, every time you try to share and open the concept of creatorship, there will ensue some problems. But you don't have to worry. Maybe less than a year from the event, I was participating in a seminar, and I put all the headlines on my PowerPoint and gave a speech and made 250 professionals laugh at them who criticized me. So I think we are much. Okay, back to the Euro-Arctic region. And if there are three themes, and you can hear that I repeat the same things: land, language, and identity. Land is understood as a site of knowledge, a site of memory and rights. It's not just a resource. A great deal of conflict on the area, conflict defined by maybe a civilized and conversational Swedish approach, are deeply rooted in the question of who has the right to land and use it and how. This was part of a regional project we did. We packed video works just on that theme to a truck, and then went around the small communities around the area. Norrbotten County is maybe almost 1/4 of the size of Sweden, and Sweden is a small country at all. Kiruna alone is nearly 20% of the area. This is a video still from a work by the artist Maria Helander, Birds in the Earth. If you ever have a chance to see the whole work, I encourage you to do that. I mean, I might be a bit rough on the outside, But this is one of the most moving videos I've seen during my entire career, and it makes me cry every time. The basic concept is two dancers, both Sami, the women, actually daughters to maybe the best known Sami artist, Outi Pieski, dance their way from Sapmi to the Parliament House in Helsinki. Language is obviously a very significant identifying factor. Language also becomes a tool of empowerment and resistance. It shapes the way cultural narratives are told. Just to keep in mind, meänkieli and some Sami speaking children have been often on the internet or studied at majority driven schools but in Swedish. And in those, until very recently, success was defined how many of the kids were made Swedish or Finnish or Norwegian, which means that if they forgot their own language and identity and were part of the majority culture identities, that was counted, ironically enough, as a success. And with the language, you can also lose connection, a living connection to your own language. The tragic outcome of this is the fact you might lose the language which you always communicate your deepest emotions and with your parents, and especially your grandparents who might not know the native languages very well. So transferring heritage and memories becomes much more difficult. I spoke a couple of years back with a Canadian Indigenous artist, and he told me that his grandfather taught his father. His father taught him, but he cannot teach his son-in-law because the language has vanished and the climate change has affected nature in a way that he cannot give the heritage any good. And then the third thing, identity. In this area, as you're everywhere, identity is not fixed, it's relational, it's negotiated, and we can, as creators, we can partake in those negotiations and provide platforms and encounters between institutions, communities, and individuals and artists. In that sense, creating the Arctic, to both listen to people, to places, and to histories that were long silenced. Another example from my very own mobile phone, we made an exhibition at Konstmuseet in Norge together with Arches, the museum or Center for Architecture and Design in Stockholm, called Kiruna Forever, about the city, that's how I'm working. And here are the exhibition catalogs. I have one in English for the department. In meänkieli, Sami, English and Swedish. So when we think about curatorial ethics, so I feel that ethical curating the art it involves more than just inclusion. It requires that we are accountable. Institutions must ask questions like who benefits from this exhibition? What voices are missing from what we show? What is our approach? We have to be aware of the power structures at all times and recognize what privileges we have and what privileges other people might not have. But I think identifying the power structures and the power positions, if you are able to do that maybe half of the job is already done. Many exhibition projects in the Euro-Arctic region, or in that context, they integrate sustainability and environmental responsibility as well. By, for example, using local materials, minimize shipping and travel, and because many artists talk about these things, they can foreground the cultural awareness. And then, but that we can connect cultural care with the care for the land itself. In this sense, creating becomes more like a stewardship, caring for both material heritage and the fragile Arctic environment, where the effects of the culture climate changes are very tangible. And in the picture again, artist Jenny Nordmark, Swedish artist from Torne region, not Meänkieli speaking, but from the Meänkieli extended family background. This is the Torne River I'm talking about. Jenny's project was to make, you know, on Google Maps, the red pin. This is it, just in real life. We sent 16,000 postcards to 16,000 households along the river banks. And then the contemporary art would soon come to the river near you. And it was partly just the amazement. What happens if we make a big ball with a radio transmitter and sort of send it down the river, and then let's see what happens. It engaged communities in an enormous way because when we left it, there was still ice. The weather conditions weren't very perfect, so winds pushed it somewhere where it couldn't find its way further. So people took their boats and sort of helped it along the way. It never reached the Finnish Gulf, where the Torne River ends, because there was like a waterfall in between, and it broke. But if you've got to go, let me show you that's the way. On the project webpage, we have great videos of what happens. And then it took us 3 weeks to pick up the pieces. Because, of course, we didn't want to leave anything in nature. If we're thinking, sort of rethinking the role of the creator, I think sharing knowledge and sharing resources and beliefs, it's very essential in the concept, or essential in most, if not all, indigenous cultures. And what institutions and creators need to do as well is to learn from that and share. Our roles are sort of changing, and we don't have to be afraid of sharing. We can find all perspectives together. This, of course, requires that we rethink the role of the creator from an expert, rather than being an expert. I possess all, because I'm Dr. Green, I possess all the knowledge about things. And then maybe someone else knows something, but I know what's best for everybody in my own sort of use of power. And I have to sort of, again, think of curating more as that the main tool is actually listening. How and creating it's listening, but it's also a relational practice. It should be rooted in participation. It should be respectful of language and land, and aware of its own positions. As Arctic communities face climate change, cultural loss, and political pressure, creating becomes also a tool of resilience, a way to make visible stories of people and places. In short, to create the Arctic is to listen to the North on its own terms, and to recognize that the Arctic is not the world's periphery, but it's a vital center of new great thought. Or, as people in Kiruna put it, Kiruna, it's not the end of the road, it's way beyond. Thank you.